Alrighty, just checking this is working. Yes, good morning to those in Guangdong province of China, Hong Kong, Hainan Island in China, parts of Vietnam, Laos, and northeastern Cambodia. Today we are going to be discussing Tropical Storm Fengshen, also known as Ramil in the Philippines, although I believe it's just exiting the Philippine area of responsibility. We're going to be discussing its impacts over the next 3 to 5 days or so. Right now, I am currently sharing the stream, so if you have any questions you'd like answered, be sure to ask them in the comments or in the live chat, and I will answer them towards the later part of the stream. So, this should be working. Okay. Yes, alright. Thank you, Laugh Central. How are you doing? Alright, let's get into it. So, here's a look at the forecast cone over the next 3 days on where the system's expected to go. It is currently a weak tropical storm, but it is expected to steadily intensify over the next 24 to 36 hours and potentially peak as a low-end typhoon before the system then meanders to the southwest and begins to weaken due to an increase in wind shear. The system is expected to near the coast of Vietnam by day 3 as a low-end tropical storm and likely dissipate by day 4 somewhere over either central Vietnam or southern Laos. Now, looking at the impacts, there is quite a large area, around 70 million people or so, in this green area for marginal impacts, and that does include the coast of Guangdong province, including their Hong Kong, as well as the entirety of Hainan Island and parts of Vietnam, Laos, and northeastern Cambodia. Now, a majority of this will be in the form of rain, but some of these areas, such as Guangdong province, there is in the form of wind, as well as Hainan Island. The areas in the Indochina region here, parts of Vietnam, Southeastern Asia they're all majority of rain impacts. Now, there is also an area of slight impacts that will be occurring for southeastern Hainan Island. That's going to be in the form of rain, as well as this portion of Vietnam and Laos. And there are also 2 areas highlighted for the possibility of moderate impacts. That is, again, for far southeastern Hainan Island, as well as a large chunk of Vietnam and parts of southeastern Laos. This is also going to be in the form of rain. Could see several hundreds of millimeters of rain fall over the next few days. Just verifying this is working. Okay. Because something failed on here. Okay. There we go. Okay. So, now let's discuss the broad overview of tropics, since there's a fair amount going on. In the Atlantic, we have Invest 98L, which could either make a turn towards Hispaniola or continue moving off towards the west. That has a 50% chance of tropical development over the next 48 hours and an 80% chance over the next 7 days. Could become a hurricane or even major hurricane, but it's quite uncertain as to what it will do. In the Eastern Pacific, we have a disturbance here with a 40% chance of tropical development over the next 7 days. That will be meandering out to sea. In the Western Pacific, we of course have Tropical Storm Fengshen with winds of 40 miles an hour, and we discussed where that's going. But there is also an area of interest by Taiwan here in the Luzon Strait with a 10% chance of tropical development over the next mainly 5 to 7 days. In the North Indian Ocean, specifically mainly the Bay of Bengal here, 93B has a 20% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 50% chance over the next 7 days as that meanders towards India. In the Arabian Sea, we have 92A with a 20% chance of development as that meanders out to sea. In the Southwest Indian Ocean, we have 95S, which is nearly a tropical cyclone there, with a 50% chance of development over the next 7 days. And we also have Chenghe here with as a tropical storm with winds of 60 miles an hour that could pose a threat to northern Madagascar over the next week or so. Yes, okay, there we go. Now, in terms of the codes, we are currently code pink here for Tropical Storm Fengshen. That's why we're having a stream today. But we are code orange for 98L and code yellow for Tropical Storm Chenghe. So we do have 3 land threats we're really monitoring. Now, looking at some visible satellite imagery here, we can see the system trying to get better organized. It could have briefly been classified as a remnant low, but it is back to tropical storm or tropical cyclone status here. It does have an organized low-level center circulation, and we are seeing some nice bursts of convection all around it, kind of that shrimp-like look there of a band to the east. Looking at infrared imagery, we can see that a lot more clearly here, this shrimp-like structure there, with a majority of the convection firing on the east and northern side of the storm. It is now moving away from the Philippines, as you can see here. Now, why is it intensifying? Well, the waters are fairly warm here, 28 degrees to 29 degrees Celsius there, but it is going to be meandering over cooler waters, not by much though. That's not really going to be the main limiting factor, but as you can see here, tropical cyclone heat potential, because it will stall, this is going to be pretty important, as it's going to be upwelling a bit. Now, the main factor for its weakening will be an increase in shear here. As you can see, this map here on the top right showing an increase in shear, which will make it more unfavorable. Now, it is currently climbing. Shear is climbing, but it's not too bad for it just yet. Sea surface temperatures are going to be decreasing as well as relative humidity, so everything's just becoming a little bit worse for the system. So overall, expected to become a typhoon before then gradually weakening towards Vietnam. Now let's take a look at distances from some areas. Roughly 630 kilometers away from Manila, around 520 kilometers away from Hong Kong, roughly around 600 kilometers away from Hainan Islands, roughly 890 kilometers away from Da Nang in Vietnam, and around 850 kilometers away from where it's expected to make landfall in Vietnam. Laos looks to be around 970 kilometers away, and Cambodia looks to be around 1,000 kilometers away. So we are creeping closer to those areas. Now let's take a look at some model runs here. This is the latest GFS run. Does have it nearly becoming a typhoon before it meanders to the southwest and then becomes a tropical storm or tropical depression as it makes landfall there in Vietnam. And you can also see this other area of interest that briefly potentially becomes a tropical cyclone near Taiwan as it meanders then into the South China Sea and then off towards Vietnam as well. So that's something else we'll need to be watching over the coming days. This is the latest Canadian run, and it really has the system just as a broad tropical cyclone and makes landfall there in Vietnam as just a mess. And nothing out of the next system. Now, this model does have another system threatening the Philippines there over the next week or so. So that's going to be something to watch, and then potentially on to Vietnam. Something I've noticed. So we'll keep an eye on that over the coming days. The European run on the system does have it as a severe tropical storm before it meanders to the southwest, makes a landfall as either a weak tropical storm or tropical depression, and nothing really comes out of the system near Taiwan. The German run does have the system not really strengthening a whole lot, makes landfall in Vietnam as a tropical storm or tropical depression, but we can see a system trying to develop near Taiwan on this model run as well. Now, looking at the ensembles, again, it is fairly certain as to where it's going to go. It is going to make that southwestern jog towards Vietnam. Then beyond that, not really seeing a whole lot there. But yeah, specifically focusing in on Fengshen. I guess, is this map not updated? Okay, here we go. Yep, as you can see, it is going to be meandering then to the southwest by the time it nears Hainan Island there. So this is pretty much where it is expected to make a landfall, somewhere there in central or southern Vietnam. Hainan Island could see a landfall, but it's quite unlikely. Now, taking a look at the American ensembles on the system, again, it's fairly certain as to where it's going to go. None of them on this one have it making landfall in Hainan Island. Now, afterwards, there could be a signal in the South China Sea afterwards, and then one in the Philippine Sea as well, but it's far out. Nothing really to mention this far out. Now, touching on the wind accumulation forecast over the next 5 days or so, seeing what areas and how strong of winds they could be getting. So areas near Hainan Island, this is from the European run, winds of around 80 to 90 kilometers an hour, and parts of Vietnam there around 70 to 80 kilometers an hour. Looking at the American run here, does have it a little bit weaker. Not a whole lot of winds on these model runs, only up to 60 kilometers an hour. I believe the German run's going to be the same there pretty much. Yeah, most of those stronger winds are going to be offshore. Let's see what the Access model thinks. Okay, same story. Again, though, the main threat is going to be rainfall, so let's discuss that. First, by looking at the European run here, some areas along southeastern Hainan Island could see as much as 400 millimeters to 500 millimeters of rainfall accumulations, and across southeastern Hainan Island, around 100 to 200 millimeters. But generally, Hainan Island's going to get 50 to 500 millimeters of rain. Parts of central Vietnam here could see totals of up to 500 millimeters as well. Looking at the American run, lower totals for Hainan Island, only up to 50 millimeters at a max, but parts of Vietnam there, south of Da Nang, could see up to 300 millimeters of rain there. Let's see, okay. And looking at the German run here, no rainfall for Hainan Island on this run, but for parts of Vietnam as well, up to 200 to 300 millimeters of rain. In the access model, the high resolution model does show rainfall accumulations exceeding 600 millimeters in some spots of Vietnam. So again, this will be a major flood threat, or at least a moderate flood threat for parts of Vietnam. That's why there's that area highlighted for the possibility of moderate impacts. All right. Now, if we take a look at the latest Pagasa forecast, it does meander away from the Philippines, and I believe those Signal 1 warnings have already expired by now. That would make the most sense. But it does have it becoming a severe tropical storm before it weakens by the time it nears Vietnam. The latest Joint Typhoon Warning Center forecast, it does have it as a tropical storm here, 40-knot tropical storm. Strengthens here to a typhoon again before meandering to the southwest. Could make landfall as a tropical storm near Da Nang. Now, looking at the latest Google AI Ensemble members here, and what they want the system to do, let's take a look. Oh, dang, okay. Did it downtrend? Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, so it might not become a typhoon anymore. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, only a couple of those members there, around 9 or so. So that's around a 20% chance of it becoming a typhoon. So it could briefly peak as a typhoon as it meanders to the southwest there. Okay. So that is all of it there. Now let's answer some questions here. There's only really one question, looks like. What are your thoughts on the new invest in the Caribbean? That system, let's see. I do believe that system will form into a tropical cyclone there, 98L. I believe the National Hurricane Center is going a little bit conservative on its chances of formation over the next 48 hours. I feel like it does have a very solid chance of development over the next 48 hours. We can see this on the European run over the next by 8 p.m. or 8 o'clock on the 21st here. We can see it already a solid tropical cyclone, so I'm surprised the chances are only 30%. Could impact Hainan Island and then moving towards the northeast near Bermuda and generally out to sea, or it could be meandering to the west there, as seen from the 12 Zulu European run, and then meandering towards Jamaica and Cuba and the Bahamas. So a lot to watch out here. There's a lot of uncertainty with the system. But yeah, a lot of these members do have it as a tropical cyclone by tomorrow. So within the next 24 hours, it could already be a tropical cyclone. So the system will be posing a threat to a large area over here. It's going to hit a fork in the road pretty much. Is it going to be going off towards the northeast, like developing pretty quickly and moving towards the northeast, or is it going to develop more on the slower side and meander towards the northwestern Caribbean before bombing out into a very powerful hurricane? Again, it's very uncertain as to what it will do. So there will be more updates over the coming days, maybe as early as tomorrow, that I'll make an update video on it. We'll see though. I do want to touch on the system that's going to be impacting Madagascar, since there could also be a stream on that system over here. Again, it does get a little bit close for comfort. there. None of them really want it to become some of them want it to become a Category 1 or 2 near Madagascar there, but generally they stay to the north there, and then it will move towards the Comoros Islands and then on towards Mozambique and Tanzania. That is mainly over the next week, but within the next 5 days, it could be impacting parts of northern Madagascar and the outer islands. So those areas need to be watching. The system could be a weak tropical storm by the time it meanders near there, but generally it's going to be weakening, it looks like, by the time it reaches there. Let's see if there's anything new on this signal here. And okay, yeah, this is very uncertain. Like, a lot of these members do have it moving to the northeast, although some of them have it continuing off towards the west. I feel like the northeastern solution is becoming more likely just because of how quickly it's expected to develop. Again, we'll see though. Well, if there's no more questions, then that is likely about it. I am curious to look at the extreme forecast here in terms of rain and things like that around the world. First, let's start by looking at temperature. There's going to be some record-breaking cold in Mongolia, looks like here. Curious how cold that's expected to get. Well, down to the negatives there in terms of Fahrenheit. Very cold over there, likely an Arctic blast. And looking at some other areas, parts of other in China, parts of areas in China there, record-breaking cold as well after they were getting record-breaking heat not too long ago, like a week or two ago. Parts of northeastern Canada, record-breaking warmth. And parts of Australia as well, very, very bad heat wave looks like. Record-breaking temperatures over there. Looking at the next day, this would be Monday, again record-breaking cold in Mongolia. Some areas in Brazil looks like some cold temperatures, but I don't think that that's cold by much. Ooh, yeah, okay, it does get a little bit cold. I'm guessing a cold front pushing through, temperatures down in the 60s in terms of Fahrenheit. Other areas here, record-breaking warmth again for parts of Australia. That's interesting to see. How hot does it get down there? Oh, wow, okay. That is in the 110s. Wow, so that's going to be very hot, looks like. Wow, okay. That is interesting. That is very hot. Okay. And looking at the next day after that, nothing record-breaking looks like, and the days beyond that, Australia there gets back into record-breaking warmth, looks like, in the northeastern portions, and nothing else really pops out too much besides Australia's heat wave. Now, if we take a look at the winds, or let's more so focus on rainfall. Of course, very rainy where 98L is tracking, very rainy where Chenggen is tracking, and as well as Fengshen. Nothing record-breaking though. There's some out to sea there. Nothing too bad though, looks like. And going forward a couple days. Yep, anything in red is record-breaking in terms of rainfall. So of course there's some areas in the Arctic, but no areas really impacting land, it seems like. Are there any new storms developing in the Philippines by the next 2 weeks? Well, we can take a look at some of the Google AI ensemble members, seeing if they're going to show anything. The Canadian model has shown some stuff. Not seeing a whole lot over the next 2 weeks. Not really seeing a whole lot popping up on here. Although the Canadian run does have something developing into something tropical before impacting the Philippines there. So that's something they'll need to be watching out for potentially over the next week. Yeah, these members have had something developing, but I think it's a little bit too bullish. I think it's unlikely. I have yet to mark anything in my tropical weather outlooks. Is there a high chance of tropical development in the Atlantic? Yes. Again, an area of interest here with a 50% chance of development over the next 48 hours and an 80% chance over the next 7 days. That could be meandering to the northeast or that could be meandering to the west, so it's fairly uncertain as to where it's going to go. But yes, it does have a high chance of tropical development, becoming at least a tropical depression. And speaking of which, we've had 97 tropical depressions year to date. So we're going to be nearing the 100 mark before the end of the year, which is pretty impressive. Could reach that in tropical storms as well. We're at 89. I believe we still have like 2 months left in the year. Alright, well, that looks like it's all the questions. So, just discussing again when the next live stream will be. Possibly tomorrow if Fengshen still looks like a big threat. We'll see how popular that storm really gets. Yeah, tomorrow could see another stream if it's, especially if it's a typhoon by then. All depends on how close it is to Hong Kong as well, since they're a major population area there. Yeah, because by then they could be already experiencing some impacts from the storm. I'm curious if we have radar imagery on it, that would be helpful. Uh, Oops. Not really. It's in a radar dead zone right now. But some showers are approaching Hong Kong, it looks like, on there. We can see a lot of rain that was impacting Taiwan not too long ago. Alright. So beyond that, though, there could be another stream tomorrow discussing the storm. If it's still code pink, streams every day. 98L could be upgraded to code pink tomorrow, so we may have an update on that system instead. If there's an update tomorrow, it will either be on focusing on Fengshen or 98L. And then if not, if both of them stay below code pink tomorrow, then we'll have the next stream. Let's see, today is Monday morning for you all, or let's see, Monday morning for you all in Vietnam and Sunday nights for you all in the Caribbean. So the next stream could be done either Tuesday night for you all in the Caribbean, or that would be Wednesday morning for you all in Vietnam, as to when we could be seeing another live stream. That seems to be the next thing because Chang'e isn't going to really be impacting anything as severely as these two are. So these two are going to be taking priority. Yes. Well, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next update. Stay safe.